With all that negative stuff being said, I will say this. I respect Ryan Day a ton for manning up and saying, yeah, I haven't done a good job, so I got to fix it. Because in reality, a lot of these coaches at the college level, their pride and ego, it gets in their way. But Ryan Day, he's proven that's not the case. Man, oh man, do we have some interesting stuff to talk about in today's video, including Ryan Day, the head coach at Ohio State. He's already making changes. It's only been, what, about 48, 72 hours since they lost to Georgia, and he's already switching up stuff. And I want to make this very clear. These aren't minor changes. These are big-time changes. We're going to talk all about that. I think these are good changes, but stay tuned because I want to know what you guys think about it down below. Also, in today's video, we got to talk about, I'm not even going to call them minor topics, some other major topics, including we got to talk about the Rose Bowl game, how that went down with Penn State and USC, and also Alabama lost not one, but two big-time players on defense. And we're going to talk a little bit about good old Rocky Top Tennessee and what's going on in the future. It's going to be a jam-packed video like always. I don't know what it is about this video, but I'm just more excited than normal to get into it. Hope you guys are excited as well. It's simple. If you like college football, consider joining our community. If not, that's cool too. All right, Matt, blah, 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 shut the crap up. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. I'm working on my speed. I think my intro is getting faster and faster, but that's besides the point. Oh yeah, by the way, for all my people in the Southeast, Mississippi, Alabama, and I think the storms are going to be heading towards Georgia, hope you're staying safe out there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you probably don't have anything to worry about. Some strong storms are just going through the Southeast. That's all there is to it. Hope you guys are staying safe, but first things first, I say we talk about the Rose Bowl because it just happened. Now, I don't have too much to say because, to be honest with all of you, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed for the fact it was a great game up until, and you know what I'm about to say, Utah's quarterback Cameron Rising, he got hurt. Look, I am the last person to use injuries as an excuse. Y'all know how I feel about them. I don't use injuries as an excuse for my team in Alabama. Therefore, I don't use them for any other team. It's a part of the game and we know this. However, at the same time, we as people, it's normal, it's natural human instinct, we play the what if game. Before I go any farther, I do want to say congratulations to Penn State and James Franklin. That's a big time win. Utah is a very sound ball club and I'm not too certain even if Cam Rising stays in the game, Penn State loses. But what I am going to say is, and if you watched it, you can agree with this 100%. I don't think there's any argument. It definitely would have been a better game. Everybody saw this. As soon as Cam Rising went out of the game, the mojo of Utah went out the door. The backup quarterback played awful. I don't want y'all to get it twisted. Cam Rising wasn't playing like any Johnny Manziel or Cam Newton out there, but he was playing pretty solid. If this gives you any perspective, he had an 85.1 QBR, and he was making a lot of plays on the ground. You see his numbers, 8 for 21. You're like, well, Matt, that's terrible. He had an interception, but you got to pay attention to he had 9 carries for 56 yards. And as you can see, the backup quarterback had a QBR of 18.4. I'm just going to leave it at this. Wasn't good. On the flip side of the ball for Penn State, their running back, Singletary, broke off a long run. I think it was, 87 yards? Yeah, and their quarterback, Sean Clifford, he played really solid. Maybe one of the best games of his career. And finally, Penn State fans, I know you're happy about this. The Clifford experience is over. It seems like Sean Clifford has been the starter at Penn State for about 6 or 7 years now. That dude was forever. And I'm going to tell y'all something, and we're going to talk about this later down the road. Penn State, and I believed it this year, they're a quarterback away. What held them back in the Ohio State game and ultimately cost them the game was Sean Clifford. You got to look at it from this perspective. What if Penn State's quarterback was C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, or Caleb Williams? You're talking about a undefeated team maybe. And this is coming from a person, and y'all know this, nobody rags on the Big Ten more than me, but Penn State's legit. And I've told you guys this all year long. Penn State is a really, and I mean a really solid team. They've just simply been a quarterback away. And in the modern era of college football, if you don't have a great or elite quarterback, you're not going to be in the top 5, top 4. That's just what it boils down to. Look at all the playoff teams every single year. You got a great quarterback, and if you don't, you're going to get exposed in the semifinal game. Just something for your train of thought. Keep your eyes on Penn State heading into next season. By the way, their star running back, actually 2-star freshman running back, they're coming back. I don't know why I said they're coming back. Obviously, if they're freshmen, they're coming back, but you get the point. Moving along to our second topic. Not going to talk about this too much, but I did want to get the news out there for you guys. Alabama's star safety Brian Branch has declared for the NFL draft, and also Eli Ricks declared for the draft, and he's supposed to be the lockdown cornerback. More than likely, Brian Branch is going to be the first safety taken off the board, probably a first-round pick, and Eli Ricks, around that second or third round area. The thing with Eli Ricks is he didn't come into his zone until later in the season. If he would have started and played right away, probably would have been a first-rounder, but since he didn't break out until later, I'd say second, third rounder. And if you're a Bama fan, you shouldn't even be worried about this because it's not a big loss to your secondary. You're going to be just fine. You got Kool-Aid McKinstry coming back and a bunch of 4 and 5 stars coming in left and right. You're going to be just fine, Alabama. Did want to bring that up. Moving on to our third topic before we get into the main encore, we got to talk about Tennessee real briefly. And this is more so of I happened to stumble across it, or I'm not going to dive too into detail on it. We'll talk about this later down the road. As we all know, Hendon Hooker got hurt. He was a Heisman contender, yada, yada, yada. Well, then the backup quarterback comes in, Joe Milton, and he balls out, and he's got a rocket launcher for an arm. You want to talk about a guy that doesn't look real? He doesn't even look like he's trying that hard, flicks his wrist, and it's what, a 60-yard bomb? The dude's arm talent is incredible. Now, when it comes to accuracy, I don't know about all of that. Arm talent, though, through the roof. Well, here's the thing. Somebody tweeted out and I happened to stumble across it. I think somebody actually sent it to me, and it's Tennessee's schedule for next season. The person who tweeted this out said next year the floor is going to be 9-3, which means that's the worst case scenario. I took a look at the schedule and I somewhat agree with it, except I would say 8-4. And the reason for that is you see the first couple of games, Virginia, not that good. Austin Peay, not that good. Florida, they're still rebuilding, and UTSA. Wait a minute. That's interesting. UTSA, weren't they? Yeah, they were ranked in the top 25 this year. Don't sleep on that matchup. However, it's nothing compared to playing Alabama or Georgia, so we're just going to say benefit of the doubt, they're going to beat UTSA. Moving along here, I'm not too sure how I feel about it, because then you got South Carolina and Texas A&M and Alabama and Kentucky back to back. Me personally, it's just me, I don't think this is going to be as easy as a lot of Tennessee fans think. Because number one, let me remind you, and I know what all you're about to say, South Carolina drumrolled you. They drug you through the mud and beat you by 30 points this season with your starting Heisman quarterback. So to say that South Carolina game is going to be an easy win, I can't say that because you lost to them by 30. And if anything, South Carolina's on the rise as well. And then right after that, we all know Texas A&M, they suck this year, but they will eventually put it together. Do I think they're going to compete for a national championship? Absolutely not. But when you have 4 and 5 star recruits all around the board, you can beat anybody on any given Saturday. So that's 2 hard games, and then you got to go to Alabama, and most people assume, I mean, this is just facts, that Alabama is going to get revenge and beat them. Then you got Kentucky. The Kentucky game is always going to be a hard-fought game, and then you also got to play Georgia. Call me crazy, but this does not look like an easy schedule to me, and this doesn't look like at bare minimum Tennessee's going to go 9-3. Because I can almost bet you and guarantee you out of this Kentucky and Florida game, at least one of those is going to be close and competitive. And then you got about 4 games that could go either way, and some would argue and say that UTSA game's going to be hard. But I'll just say 4. You got South Carolina, A&M, Alabama, and Georgia. I'm not saying that Tennessee's going to do worse than 9-3 next season, but what I am saying is I don't think it's going to be as easy as some Tennessee fans think. I could talk about how I think Tennessee's going to do for the next 10 minutes, but we got to move on to the main topic, the main encore, the main reason you clicked onto this video. We got to talk about the Ohio State. Oh man, I am glad I'm not an Ohio State fan because I know you guys, you're still going through a rough time. You should have won the game. You flat out should have won the game and you let it go. Typical Ryan Day, if you gotta ask me. Whoa. Hold on. Did somebody say Ryan Day? I think they did. Let's talk about them. I'm not here to talk about the Georgia and Ohio State game because I've already done that. And you guys, you don't want to hear me talk about it. We know how it went down. But here's what I am here to talk about. The future at Ohio State. What did I tell you guys all throughout the season? Ryan Day has got to do something about the play calling on the offensive side of the ball. As far as it goes for the defensive side of the ball, I don't know what to tell you. I've told you this year, last year, and year before. Ohio State's defense is trash. You were trash in 2020, you were trash in 2021, and you're still trash this year. As do I. Ohio State fans thought they had a semi-decent defense halfway through the season. I don't know. I guess it's because you played cupcakes all throughout the year. Finally, though, these Ohio State fans have agreed with me and said, okay, Matt, you were right. Our defense is trash. Thank you. I don't mean that to be harsh. I mean it because that's just the truth. I'm calling it how I see it. Your defense is trash, and I actually think it's so bad, it doesn't matter who you bring in a defensive coordinator, it's not going to get fixed anytime soon. It's just simply not. This is going to take years to fix. Defense is a little bit harder to fix than offense in 2023. Offense is simple. You bring in a great quarterback, couple of decent wide receivers, a running back, decent O-line, great offensive coordinator, you're good to go. You don't got to be a rocket scientist to fix the offensive side of the ball, and that is why I've criticized Ryan Day so much. It didn't make sense to me how Ryan Day had one of the best quarterbacks in the country, the best wide receiver in the country, a couple of great running backs in the country, yet they would be stagnant at times on the offensive side of the ball. And the game that stuck out the most to me, and a lot of people didn't even watch this, was the Northwestern game. I told you guys straight up, it should have been concerning when you couldn't just line up and run the ball down a team's throat that is pitiful and on the caliber of a JV high school football team. That is how bad this Northwestern team was this season. So with all that being said, your boy good old Kirk Herbstreit, who I admire, respect, and I can trust his word, he came out and leaked some information stating that Rondé said he will not be the offensive play caller for the Buckeyes next season. Interesting. What do y'all think about that? Continuing along here, this information comes from a production meeting ESPN and Herbstreit had with Day leading up to the Peach Bowl. When I first saw this, my immediate reaction was, it's about dang time. And just like this comment says, so either Justin Fry or Brian Hartline calling the plays next year, Day has to be more involved with the defense. I don't know about all that. Like I said, I think the defense, that's more than just fixing a couple things here and there. That's a culture thing. Because the culture at Ohio State is now California wide receivers and quarterbacks and the flashy offenses you see on West Coast. Whereas Ohio State 10, 15, 20 years ago, it wasn't that. Ohio State was known for their rugged play style and hard-hitting linebackers. But now when you think of Ohio State, it's, oh yeah, great quarterback and flashy wide receivers. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you still got to have those rugged linebackers and great defense to win championships. The problem with Ohio State is your front seven is straight up awful. You're not intimidating anybody. You're not bigger, stronger, or more physical than any of these teams you play. Remember in 2020 when Alabama had that legendary team? I remember watching play Ohio State. It literally looked like a varsity football team scrimmaging a middle school team. It felt like the Alabama play caller was closing his eyes and drawing plays out of a hat because whatever Alabama wanted to do, they did it. It kind of felt like Alabama was just like, we passed the ball 2 straight times. Let's run it 5 straight times. And it worked. And then when Alabama got tired of running it, they had passed, and it worked. Everything Alabama did in 2020 in that championship game, it worked. And for the most part, look at every single Ohio State loss from 2020 up until this point. Their defense gets exposed. You got exposed against Oregon. You got exposed against Michigan, not once, but twice, and most recently Georgia. With all that negative stuff being said, I will say this. I respect Rondé a ton for manning up and saying, yeah, I haven't done a good job, so I got to fix it. Because in reality, a lot of these coaches at the college level, their pride and ego, it gets in their way. But Rondé, he's proven that's not the case. So I do respect him from that aspect, and I think this is the right decision. As far as what's next for Ohio State, I think it's rather simple. You got to get better at defense, and you just got to get over the hump. You got to win the big-time game. You're really struggling if you think about it. You got embarrassed by Alabama. You haven't beat Michigan in 2 years. You lost to an Oregon team that wasn't that great last year, and you lost to Georgia. You haven't won a big-time game in a few years, but here's some good news about it. That can change. We saw it with Georgia. It took them, 4 to 5 years to get over that hump, and now they're one of the best teams in the country. Kind of looking like Georgia. If they go back to back, they're on a mini dynasty run. Make no mistakes about it, Ohio State is still a great football team and great program. I am very curious, though. Let me know your thoughts down below. But